Graph by hand an equation of the form y equals mx plus b, in which m is negative and b is positive. Also, find an equation of the graph. Well, this seems like it's not giving us very much information. And while that's true, it's giving us enough information to create a graph. And what's true with a problem like this is that I may end up with a very different graph than the person sitting next to me. We might still both have a graph where m is negative and b is positive, um, but our graphs still may look very different. So let's see how we could approach this problem. We want it in the form y equals mx plus b. So that's where we're going to be heading for our equation of our graph. But they're giving us a lot of leeway for what we want to have for m and what we want to have for b. So I'm just going to be thinking about, well, what are some of my favorite numbers? And I don't want numbers that are too big. We want m to be negative. M could be any negative number that I want. So I'm thinking, well, let's have m be -2, just for kicks. Then they tell me they want b to be positive. B can be any positive number that I want. Well, let's have b be 7, just for fun. Okay, so here I have my values for m and for b. So right away, I could go ahead and do the second part of the question, find an equation of the graph. We could go ahead and put in those values. Y equals, well, we thought we would have an m value of -2. So -2x plus, and then the value for b we said was going to be 7. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my 7. So there's my equation. Notice from this equation and from the things that I've done here, I know that my slope, remember that corresponds to the m. The slope is going to be -2, but because we like to think about it as a fraction, rise over run, we're going to put it over 1. So the rise of -2 and a run of +1. And I know that the b value tells me about the y-intercept. So in this case, the y-intercept would be the point 0, 7. So now I've got everything I need to create the graph. The y-intercept is at 0, 7. So 0, 7 is right up here on my y-axis. And now I'm going to have a rise of -2 and a run of 1, +1, to come up with a couple more points. So from that y-intercept, I'm going to go down 2 because I'm going a -2 rise and a +1 run. And so there's another point on my line. I'm going to do that a couple more times because these are pretty close together. So I'm going to go down 2 and to the right 1. I'm going to go -2 on my rise, +1 on my run. And now I'm going to get my straight edge and I'm going to get that lined up so we can get our line all set up here. So line that up with one of my points, with that point right there. I'm going to pivot this around so it lines up right through the middle of those points. And then go back and grab my pencil, draw that in. Let's get rid of that straight edge. And then we can go ahead and finish this up by putting those arrows going in both directions to show that that line continues forever and ever. And so that takes care of all the things that this problem asks me to do. I can just double check. I can see I have a slope that's a negative slope. So that tells me that was that part where my m is negative. I can see I've got a positive y-intercept. So that gives me my b value positive. And right here, I've got the equation of the graph that they were asking me for. So I've completed all the parts of the problem.